Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. We're about to venture off into our first topic for the morning. Actually, representatives of the Belize National Teachers Union in. We've got the president in with us, and that's none other than Elena Smith, and National Security of BNTU, Ruth Shoman. Secretary. There we go, National Secretary, Ruth Shoman. It's so... Miss Ruth, I apologize. Good morning and welcome. It's so nice to have you on.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Yes. Mr. President, whenever you're in, we know for a fact that there is always something hot to lean onto. That's how a lot of people see you. And we would like to know, we want to jump right into it. We know that the Belize National Teachers Union, they're always rallying for each other, always doing what they've got to do to make things happen for the union. Talk to us, what's going on?
Well, we rally for our members and for our nation. Don't forget that part, because we play a critical role in our nation's building.
Yeah.
Right now, we are dealing with the matter of our teachers' hardship allowance, Proposal 22, and added on to that, we have the issue of the docking of salaries, which occurred in November, December, for our action that we took on November 7th. So those are the issues that we are facing at this time.
And I wanted to start off by just jumping into the first, which was the docking of the salaries. We closed off this year talking to BNTU. We opened this year talking to BNTU because this is an issue where you have said publicly that the union is not backing down from. So let's talk about what happened. The November 7th protest took place, and the salaries were docked in December. What is your current plan as to what you will do at this point forward?
Okay, some were docked in November. A few, I think one management did docking in November, and then the others in December, and some are still waiting to do the docking. I recently met with the general manager of government schools, and he informed that yes, they would be docking salaries. It wasn't done November, December, so probably it will be done in January. At this point in time, what we are looking at as BNTU is looking at the legality of that matter. How is it that that occurred? What were the reasons given for the docking of salaries? How that was done, and whether the manner and the reason, whether those are legally correct. And if not, then we will be able to challenge those managements in that decision that they made. So we are gathering information from our members because, as we said, it has not been every management who has docked. And so we don't have a total number of teachers at this point in time to say 500, 1,000, 1,500 of them who were out were docked. So we have to have that first in place. We have to be able to determine what was the purpose given, how that went about, and then we determine whether we have a legal challenge or not. And so that's what we're doing at this point in time.
Now, it's important for us to understand the process. You applied to have the protest. It was approved. And what does this mean in terms of whether or not there is the option for the management to dock the day's pay?
So when a union takes industrial action, what you do, you inform your management or the employers that this is what you will be doing.
Yeah.
Right? So when you inform them, you give them that notice per se, and they are aware. The rules are very clear, and the rules tell us that if you're absent from work, then the management has the right not to pay for that day or those days
that you've been absent.
Right. But it says may. And so then it is up to the management to determine whether they would be docking the teachers' salaries or not. However, we are fully aware of how this process goes, based on experience. The ministry calls a meeting with the management. They discuss the matter. Are you going to dock? Are you going to dock? Are you going to dock? And then sometimes that is followed by phone calls. Are you going to be docking? And are you going to be doing it? And for this time around, I have gotten clearly from a member who said, well, I was asked whether I was going to be docking salaries or not. So obviously that is telling us that the management did not on their own make that decision. They were, you can say, coerced into making such a decision. And the rules are clear. It is the managing authorities who make the decision. Nobody must come and tell them or question them, will you? The rule is there. You know, you should know the rule. And then you make that determination and you say, this is what I will do.
Yeah.
But when we asked them, because we asked, when I asked, I was given no answer. We're not sure yet, I don't know yet, haven't gotten there yet. And then suddenly you hear, oh, salaries will be docked. And then you get a press release from the ministry saying, oh, we support the action because they're abiding by the rules. All of a sudden, the ministry
the rules
realizes.
allow for the discretion of the management.
Correct.
What's the track record of management in docking salaries after a protest?
We've only had once in 2005, you know, that prolonged period when that was done, and then now. Because what happened when it was done in 2016, if you can recall, we went through mediation for the same reason, because it was proven that the ministry was the one who told the management to dock the salaries.
Yeah.
And the rules are clear.
Yeah.
So for that reason, we took the matter to court and we ended up mediating, and our teachers, you know.
You did mention that some management are still in the process of actually whether or not to dock. It strikes me a little funny, because if this has been done in November, then why wait for a certain time to dock?
Exactly.
What is your position on this?
That is one of our board of contention, because I was absent in November. For one day in November, I was absent. In December, I had 2 weeks of classes. I was there every day. Come January, I might be there every day. So why am I being penalized in January for being present the entire month and not penalized in November when I was absent? Now, whether that is possible, legal, we don't know at this point in time, but it is something that, you know.
That's what you're exploring.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, the broader conversation here is that you feel that this is a punitive measure that is being done to the teachers as a result of standing up and protesting, and with a mandate coming down from the Ministry of Education. Let's talk about that.
That has always been one of the areas where we've had an issue with, because I think the nation knows that BNTU stands strong. And the best way to get rid of this is to divide and conquer. And I believe that these are just tactics to try and accomplish that. But one of the things that maybe is missed along the way is that the more these things are done, the stronger the union becomes. So, you know, we constantly expect these little attacks, these underminings, these punitive ways of trying to get to the teachers. So part of our objective is to educate our teachers, to ensure what their rights are, to ensure that they are reading their rules, so when they try all these undermining tactics, they know, guess what, this won't work, because these are my rights. These are what the rules are saying, and so what you're coming with won't work.
Yeah.
So that in itself is very important for us to continue being strong and moving forward.
And it's also a form of union busting, because people don't look at it that way. But when you do that, while you are dividing the union, because teachers, we do know that anybody, for example, if you were to be docked your salaries, you would think twice to act a second time around, because you know what, I was unable to pay this bill, I had less, I was suffering during that month, that kind of thing. And so it's a form of union busting. And we have to understand, as most have said in this country, that one of the unions that is left standing is the BNTU. Because we don't hear from the other unions the way we hear from BNTU on national issues, for example. Our union matters aside, we do deal with national issues. And so if it is that we are the strongest union right now, and if it is that we are the union that has maybe shed some bad light on this government, then it is in their best interest to ensure that the union breaks. And they will tell you that that is not so. But
from the union perspective, you're calling it union busting. But from others who look on as well, couldn't it be seen that the teachers are cognizant of the sacrifice they make when they choose to participate in a protest? In other words, the rule says may or may not. So when I choose to participate in any protest or any day that takes me out of work, that I may very well pay a consequence of not having my salary.
Right. Our teachers, we tell them, every time we take action, we remind our teachers that these are the possible consequences. But there has to be that when a teacher is punished for these things, it is done the proper way.
That is
And that is the contention, that this matter must be done the proper way and that there must be no interference from the ministry, any at all, in determining whether this action will be taken or not, whether the teachers will be docked or not.
So what is the proper way of docking the salary then?
The management should be the one on their own to make that determination.
Now, what proof do you have that the ministry intervened?
Well, as I said before, we were not able to say we were there, we saw any documentation, but based on conversation that we have with persons who are in these meetings and comments that these persons make, then we realize that there was some coercion going on. And if you ask the ministry, they will tell you no. If you ask me if I was out that day, I might say no. You don't have any camera footage to show that Ms. Smith was out there protesting. Maybe I could say, well, I was sick. Yes, I was absent, but I was sick. How can you prove that? It's the same way.
So when you talk about something, I think, because it's hearsay. I mean, and that's probably where your challenge is, even in going the legal option. While you may have an instinct or a gut feeling or have people telling you that the ministry put some sort of pressure or advised management to dock the salary, if you don't have the proof, it's just he says, she says.
Correct. Correct. And that is the issue.
But you see, this is one of the things we have to stand strong. Today, where I think the nation is crying out for justice. The nation is crying out for a legal system that is working, that is independent, that we create systems that the people can trust. And I think that that is the basis. It is not the docking, but it is doing it the right way. Let's use the right process. Let's stop the undermining. Let's stop the intimidating. Let managements do their job. And that is what we're saying. Let the processes work the way the rules, the laws dictate. Don't come and try to coerce and try to sidetrack this because you have a personal agenda. That is the essence of it. And that is what we don't want to lose along the way. Let us really speak what we want, and let's not speak from two sides of our mouth. Here we are as a nation crying out that we want justice, and justice should be across the board. So we're not saying we don't want our salary docked, but we know what we're getting ourselves into. But if you're going to do it, then do it the right way. That is what we want the message to be.
So at this particular point, while we discuss this, what's the position of BNTU and what's the next move and how early will you move?
As I said earlier, we're looking at the legal options. And so as soon as we have that information, we are going to be either getting somebody, a legal person on board with us to start that process, or if it is that there is no legal option for us, then we have to see what would be the other option in terms of how do we go addressing it. But again, our teachers do understand that this is a possibility. And while we feel and we empathize with those teachers who lost salary, it's a part of the process that we do. But with all of that, we still will do our best to see how best we can assist our teachers in terms of addressing this matter in any way we can.
What has been the feedback from the teachers whose salaries have been docked so far?
A few of them are upset. I mean, understandably upset. And especially those who got that salary deducted in December, because here you are, you're not expecting that at that time of year. You're preparing for the holidays for your children, for Christmas, that kind of thing, and then you get your salary and a day short. And for somebody who's in a higher bracket, it's a good chunk that you're losing.
What's the average that you're talking about here for a day's salary out?
It depends on the pay scale, so it can be anywhere from 50-something to 100 and something,
Okay.
200 and something, depending on
the salaries.
whether you're 1,000 or you're 4,000 for the
Okay.
month.
Okay.
And there are still a few people who might be docked in this month.
Correct. Correct.
Now, I asked you what the reaction is because I also wanted to get some insight as to whether or not you're hearing from teachers that they perhaps are reflecting on future participation in any potential protest that BNTU may have.
We have heard from some of our branch presidents that, you know, that teachers are a bit scared or
Concern.
you know, wondering if next time around, you know, they'll be doing this. And again, we understand all of that because it's not just the docking, you know. It's, as Ruth said, it's what comes before, the intimidation that comes before, the threats that come before the actual protest, demonstration. So all of these things, teachers are being threatened with. And we have to understand that when a person's livelihood is on the line, you know, you think twice. And especially our young teachers, you know, you're just getting into this profession, you know, you want to remain here, and these things happen, you know, you don't want to get in any trouble with your management. So instead of going out, you believe is the right thing to do, you know, you stay back because I need my job, you know, my management is doing this person is watching me. So it has caused some of our members to think twice, but we always hear these comments right after an action. And when the other time comes around, they're all riled up and ready to go.
And then there's also the other side of it. It's not only how it will affect the union, but how it will affect the managements. Because right now what we're hearing are teachers saying, okay, we're now going on to the smart stream. We're being asked to sign a document stating whether we want to donate. Because I think the nation should be aware that all these teachers on a monthly basis give something towards their salary to these churches, to these managements. And so they're not forced to do so. And if here the same management is going to be punitive, then I need my money. And so we're hearing this side of the story as well. So it's a gamble.
Wouldn't the smart stream system also make it easier for salary deductions?
Well, it still has to go through the same process.
Yeah, okay.
Because again, the managements are the ones responsible. So what I understood from a manager is that you have to send a letter for each individual teacher to those persons there who manage the smart stream to say, you must deduct so much from Ruth, you must deduct so much from Elena, so much from Arlene. And so each teacher, you have to write a letter for each teacher.
So you still have to go through the the documentation process.
Correct. So imagine the Catholic management who has over 1,000 teachers having to write a letter for each teacher, if all of them come out, for each teacher to send to say, do so.
Now, and let's look at this again from your critic's perspective. The BNTU is the entity in this country that has perhaps held the most protests. Your workers come out of the classroom and they participate in public demonstration. Some may say perhaps it is happening too frequently, that at some point there has to be the docking of salary, that you don't use it too loosely.
When we look at the last time we were out in terms of our union issue, it was in 2016. That's 2 years before this last one in November. Before November, we were out in terms of addressing a national issue, the matter of crime and violence against our women and children. Now, these are very critical issues, and we teach these students. So we get firsthand from them how these things affect these students, because that comes to us as teachers. So we feel for our students. And I think one of the things that sometimes we fail to add to the picture when we're talking about teachers are being out too much is the extra that our teachers give. Because when you leave from here, you go home, what do you take with you? Nothing, right? You leave your desk, you go home with your 2 long hands, that's it. You don't have to take any work with you at home. Now, a person who is married to a teacher, whether a male or a female, will tell you how many times or how many hours a teacher stays up at night preparing for the following day. We have teachers who feed our students on a daily basis, who clothe them, who buy books for them, who take them to their homes because parents come late for them, take them home and give them extra classes during holiday time. I used to do that. My Christmas break and my Easter break, I had my students from my class at my house because those were students who I saw potential in. They needed the extra help. And so if the parents were able to take them to my house, I gave up my holiday and I worked with them. These are things that we don't hear the public talking about a lot. But we hear them talk about the teachers absent. They go and they protest and they're too greedy and they want this and they want that. Look at the other side. So when we compare what we give to our profession without being paid for it and compare the number of times we are out on demonstration for our rights, it's a huge disparity. One day in every 2 years compared to what we give not only to our students but to our community, because some of these same teachers go and assist elsewhere, you know, at the community centers, you know, with sports, at the church functions. So we do give a lot to our community and we are not recognized. Our teachers are not appreciated for all that they do, the extra that they give. We are seldom recognized and appreciated.
Ruth?
And it goes beyond that because we're still focusing on the management, and this is where the management fails constantly, because if we would just isolate what teachers are required by their managements to do apart from being in the classroom, how many times the teachers out of their pocket would have to give to produce a fair. We go to the Christmas fairs and the bazaars, and has anyone ever paused to think how these things happen? How many extra hours, and where does this money go? Who is really benefiting from these monies? So I think it is an unfair even thought to say teachers are taking too much time to protest. Maybe we're not protesting enough. And we need to really be fair. I started with fair and we need to end with fair. We need to be fair. If we're going to make a criticism like that, then we need to look at the big picture.
Fair enough. Now, when we look at what is probably the most prominent issue right now, and we're talking about it right now, the docking of salaries, what you'll do, what may potentially happen out of this particular decision by management. But how do you keep the focus on the issues that you're raising in the first place? So the hardship allowance is still is a part of why you protested on November 7th. Proposal 22 has just been hanging around for such a long time. How do you keep the focus on the issues?
Proposal 22 is worse than a pregnant elephant, you know? It's like, you know, you are there with this huge thing in front of you and you can't give birth to it. I mean, it's been 10 years, 10 years now. Yeah. But in terms of the hardship, you know, I keep saying to people, you have a contract with your employer and you are given certain benefits in that contract. That contract expires. You go back and you negotiate a new contract. Do you go and you accept less than what you had before? Nobody in their right mind would do that. So the hardship, the commuting, those were things that the union bargained for. So we had an increase after so many years, from the time it was, well, it came into effect. We just had an increase just 2 years or so ago. So all of those years, it remained the same. Everything went up, everything changed, but that allowance remained the same. And now, a year and a half, 2 years later now, you are going to tell me that the teachers are getting a bit too much. And so we have to recategorize them. And in doing so, most of them will be getting less than what they're currently getting. Now, who negotiates for less benefits? Nobody, right?
Nobody, yeah.
We don't do that. And so, despite the fact that the George Price Highway has been fixed, it's a better road now, or the Southern, whichever highway, the fact remains that the teachers have to travel the same distance to get to school. They have to still wake up at 4 in the morning. They have to catch a bus at 6. They get home at 6 in the evening, after 6 in the evening. They get to the corner of the highway and they have to walk in, trek in, horse in, or you saw some of it, whatever. You know, walk some, cross a ferry, go in a canoe, that kind of thing.
Jump behind a truck.
One portion of the road may have been improved, but the other conditions remain. These teachers still don't have access to hot food at midday because where they are, there's no restaurants, you know, there's no health centers. In some places, they have to take their lunch. You know, I mean, come on, you saw that. The teacher, we were eating tortilla with not or something, I can't remember. But that's cold food that the teacher brought from 5 in the morning or from 4 or 6 in the morning. You know, that's what the teacher is eating. So the conditions, a lot of the conditions remain the same. It's not that I am, because the road was fixed, I am now closer. You're the same distance, and that's what we're saying to them.
Was there ever a definition given to hardship, as in commute time, time away from home? And does, you know, is it that improvements in infrastructure changes what is defined as hardship?
That was never a condition for hardship, to say that the highway is improved. It was based on the distance and the remoteness of where you are. And those conditions haven't changed because none of those rural schools are now in any urban area. They're still rural.
Exactly.
They're still remote. And so that, I mean, you know, that is the contention. And again, Marlene, you know, to me, this is a matter where our managements could easily be working on showing our teachers that, listen, we have you at heart. We care about you. We understand where you are and what you are going through to take care of our children. Yes, you are being paid, but nobody wants to go to Machakila and Graham Creek because of where they are. But you are going there. And so as a management then, this is one time we will support you and we will fight for you that you get what you rightly deserve. This is what should be happening. We should be because these things are not personal. I want people to understand that when we are quarreling with the ministry, it's not personal. I don't have a personal issue with the minister or the CEO or Dr. Barbara. It is just the issues that we are dealing with, and in dealing with the issues, things happen, we get upset, we say things, but they are not personal.
Now, what if we look at this from a different angle? We know the financial situation of the country. Perhaps the recategorization is an attempt to be able to ensure that the money is being invested where it's absolutely needed and perhaps cutting away any potential wastage. What about seeing it from the angle that perhaps there's a need for cooperation from the BNTU end?
Nobody has said that to us. When you can show me that as a government, you are spending my money properly, then you come to me and you tell me that you will cut what I'm getting because it is needed to be able to run this country. But when I see an $8 million being spent somewhere, that is not necessary. When I see a road being placed somewhere, that is not really necessary because we have another one already. When you see all of these
wastages,
I mean, come on. How do you expect me to feel sorry for you and say, you know what? Okay, Mr. Government, I see that you are trying. The poor are living better. We have better health system. Our system is better in education. You know, the cost of living is going down. People have jobs. So you know what? Let me give up my $40 hardship and give up 10 of it towards achieving that goal. When I see that, then you come to me and you ask me that. But before that, if you cannot show me that, don't use that with me.
Has it ever been that they're looking from the standpoint that, you know what, yes, we do hear and see the distance that has to be traveled, the fact that there is no warm food in that particular area, you need to take what you did last night, or have we probably have looked at the situation whereby we might not be able to give some money, but we're able to give probably proper transportation, a transportation whereby you could actually get to that particular point. Have we ever asked for this, the BNTU? Or it's solely about that amount of, that additional money?
They will tell you transportation has been provided for some areas, but what is said and what is lived are two totally different worlds. And I think that more and more with social media, we're seeing videos now of buses unable to go through these areas, you know. So I'm sure that the teachers would feel more appreciated if they could walk into a school that has a proper bathroom facility, a proper kitchen, a proper set of walls, supplies that they don't have to buy themselves. So it's not only a countrywide. We can zoom in and look at the teachers' immediate environment, immediate needs, immediate conditions. And even that is not improving. You know, we find it more and more, we've reached a level where we believe that it's the teacher's duty to improve these environment. And that is not so. The laws are clear, the rule is clear that managements must provide this, and government is providing them the necessary money to ensure that these things are happening. What we need to now be questioning is, where is the money really going? Why is it that the money is not trickling down to these classrooms to improve the conditions? Then we can start talking about hardship. Then we can start thinking about changing the conversation, going elsewhere with it. But until we see a difference, let's start with the immediate environment. It cannot change. You can't come to me and tell me you're going to cut from me, yet all the conditions remain the same. You're going to come and tell me, but a bus is provided. One bus is provided for an entire area of villages. So if I'm at the last stop, I still have to wait for hours, and I am still going to have to wake up at 4 in the morning to ensure that I reach there. You know, so
and you have to be there before the students.
Yes, so let us be fair to the teachers when we make these comments. This whole hardship, I don't see changing for years to come if we continue with a government that squanders elsewhere and does not invest where it ought to be invested.
Now, at this point, it still is a matter that has not been resolved. And I want to ask what type of communication is taking place, because while public statements and interviews are helpful in having the public understand what is happening, I mean, the real conversation is with the management and with the Ministry of Education. So where are we in the formal work towards the resolution?
We had a meeting, I think I reported on it, we had a meeting with the ministry. Remember, after our demonstration, we met with them, our presidents came in and we had that discussion, and so we placed before them the matter of you know, our position on the various schools and what should change and what shouldn't change. So what is left for us to do now is for us to meet as joint staff. That is the group who will be looking at the entire package and will be recommending to the ministry, you know, what changes, if any, would be made. So after the BNTU did its part, it was sent to the management, and it had comments from the ministry, what is the ministry's position and what is BNTU's position. That was sent to the management for them to review and add their position to that. And so now that final will be sent to all of us, and then we have a meeting sometime this month, and then we're going to be looking at the entire package and presenting the final recommendation to the ministry for approval.
Have you been given a timeline?
Well, what happened, we already had a meeting scheduled for December.
Okay.
But because of clashes and other things, that had to be pushed back. And so on Thursday, we have a meeting to discuss Proposal 22. And then sometime after that, probably the week after, the following week, we'll be meeting to deal with the hardship and time off for pay. Okay. So that should be done before the end of January.
Okay.
Now, before we run out of time, we do have to discuss Proposal 22 for the umpteenth time. And, no, but I think it's, you know, you said 10 years, that's the duration of the show. That's how I know Proposal 22 has been around that long. And why are you not able to make any headway with this issue?
I think there are several reasons, because the matter of the community schools, for example, that was a matter that was brought to the table by the ministry, not by the union, by the ministry. It was a suggestion that came from them, because as you're aware, these community schools don't really have a proprietor that you can say hold accountable when you're there and you want to get your portion of the benefits from them.
Yeah. So
that
school is either a religious school or a government
Government
school.
right?
That's
right.
what we have in Belize.
Right, and so these community schools have none of that.
Okay.
It's a community who owns them. So who do you pinpoint to and say, I will take you to court for my 20, 30, 35, whatever percent that is owing to me. And so for that reason then, when we were looking at determining how do we assist our teachers or how do we get these managements to comply with ensuring that our teachers get their rightful benefits, that they end up with 100%, it was determined that there's an issue with these schools. And so if this is not fixed, then these schools will still have the same issue, because if we cannot hold these managements accountable to paying the benefits, then how do we hold these ones accountable, because they have no proprietor? Yeah. And so that came about, and for those community schools, we are looking to see, I think at first there was this impression that the government must pay. They must pay the teachers the 100% benefits. And that was the issue, because they were saying that we can't pay and we can't pay and we can't pay. And then it went to looking at what the rules say. Who is responsible? The managements are. If they are responsible, then we must hold them accountable. Yeah. So how do we hold them accountable for paying these teachers their benefits? And that is where we are in determining how do we go about holding whoever is responsible. How do we get them to ensure that these teachers get 100% benefits?
How many community schools are you talking about?
4.
4.
But
and there was an attempt at one point to ask them whether or not they wanted to be a government institution.
Correct.
Yes.
Right. So meetings were held with those schools. And again, we went around and we had a second round of meetings. We are still to meet with the schools down south. And the ministry has agreed that we would have joint meetings with the 4 schools, call them in and have meetings with them, share with them the pros and the cons of becoming a government school. You know, let them know if you become, this is what will be, and if you don't, this is what will be, and have them make that determination, and we go from there. If it is, though, that we can determine legally that for these schools, whether you are denominational or whether you are community schools, who would be responsible for your benefits, who we will hold accountable, then these schools might be able to remain as is, because then you have somebody who you know that you can take to court if you don't get your benefits. That's a critical point.
Okay.
And at this point, nobody wants to assume that responsibility from a community school.
Because we've had where some members already have taken the matter to court, and the court was unable to identify or to determine who is the person who is in charge. Who do I hold accountable? Yeah. Is it the principal? Is it the board chairman? The board chairman says, I don't own a school, I'm just the chairman of the board. Yeah. You know? So the community, who from the community? The mayor? The minister of the So, you know, the teachers are left hanging as to who they can hold accountable to get their benefits. So that has to be sorted out. And then once that is sorted out, then we are sure that our teachers will be able to collect 100% of their benefits. Okay.
So we're looking at legislative changes, and this is what we also need to, you asked the question, what has dragged this on for 10 years? Yeah. And the lack of management's participation as well, because BNTU in the past had approached managements, let's come to the table, let's work together, let's approach ministry with this, that. And so even that dragged on the process. So now we want to move forward. We have gotten the agreement with the minister to sit down and finalize this and to make the necessary legislative changes to ensure that teachers get their 100%. Yeah. So that's where we are right now. Yeah.
And again, this was another chance where the union and management had a chance to work together for the benefit of our teachers. At the time, the management did not want to work with us. And at the time, we would have been working together to say to government, you must pay these teachers their 100% benefits. Okay. So then the management then wouldn't have any responsibility. If we were able to work together to get that. The management didn't join us, and we ended up on our own. So we have to go ahead and fight for our members. We must, because at the end of the day, you can't expect me to work for 35 years. And at the end of that 35 years, I go home with 60%, 70% of my benefits. It's unfair to me. Somebody has to pay me the other portion. And our teachers are saying, listen, It doesn't matter. I don't care who pay me, whether it's government or my manager, my management. I must get 100% of my benefits.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely right.
All right. Well, ladies, before we close off this conversation, I just have one more thing I wanted to ask. You know, it's the start of a new year. I know most organizations go through their own strategic planning sessions. What would you say is the priority from BNTU for this year? What do you want to achieve or work towards?
Well, I want for you to understand that for the remainder of our term, we only have until April. So what, 3 more months to go, 3.5 months to go in my first term as president.
Yeah.
Right? And so what we are doing, for my part, I am continuing what my platform was. And that was educating our members, you know, having a better communication with them so that they are aware of what is going on a timely basis. And so we are working on that. And then we are also looking to see, you know, how is it that we can revive and re-energize our members, because from time to time, sometimes when we do have change in leadership, some of our branches become a little bit dormant. You know, they might not be as active as they were before. And so we are trying to get our members to be a little bit more re-energized, to be able to support our union as much as they can. And then we are looking at having a retreat for our Council of Management, because we do believe that with all the stress that comes with the job, that you do need time to sit and reflect. You know, what is it that we are doing as leaders to enhance the union, you know, to take the union to another level? What is it that as leaders we are doing to hold back the union from progressing? You know, how are we serving our members? How are we not serving them? You know, and a time for us to, you know, have some sort of motivational session, you know, to motivate us to continue, so that, you know, when you're coming to the end, you know, you might be going slowly. We want to run to the end, and so, you know, we're looking at that. So that should be coming up at the end of this month. We have right now, we are going to be getting, and which we are proud of, our own ID machine. And so our teachers had their ID cards, but those expired and we didn't get any more. But these were done by branch level, so each branch made their own cards. We want to have a standardized card across the country, and so we are going to be getting that within 2 weeks. And our teachers would be getting their own cards, because we have businesses who have offered our teachers discounts, and they need the cards to be able to access these discounts. So if there's anybody listening, you own a business and you want to give our teachers discount, hello, we're here. You know, so we are working on that.
And another area over the past 2 years is capacity building, and which is very important for the continuity of BNTU. So there's been quite a lot of that.
And keeping an eye on national issues, what's the conversation taking place on the upcoming referendum and the teachers from the union?
We have said to our members that as a union, we would not be telling them or putting forth a position, yes or no. What we'll be doing is to ensure that we have forums that they can educate themselves. And so, again, we are looking, hopefully our education committee has been working on putting together some dates for us to have our own, again, forum for our members, so that, you know, we can assist them in making that right decision. So that's what we'll be doing. So education continues. We are working on our constitution. That continues, and we continue to policies of the union. Our union needs to have policies in place, you know, financial policy, a disaster, all of these policies need to put in place. We have the draft for those, so it's just for those to table them and hopefully have them approved, and we move forward. And then the continuous training and education of our members, because our teachers do need help, you know, in subject areas, counseling, that kind of thing, and so we continue to train them. So we've done quite a bit. You know, we've been out there, but we've been doing a lot internally.
And getting ready for your last sprint, you said.
Yes, the last sprint to the finish line, and hopefully we see when that time comes. It's an election year. So we'll see what happens there.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We wish you a blessed and prosperous 2019, and we hope that we'll see you again on a
Well, we'll see you after Thursday, maybe, to find out what happened. We'll see. We don't know what will happen. But we got to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be shifting focus to talk to author of A Narrative of Political Parties, Lawrence Fernandez. So stay tuned.